Hello, delayed response.
We're live.
All right, welcome everybody. It is so good. We almost have a completely full screen right now. It's on with our live stream here. It's just good to my heart to see all your faces and all your names too. So thank you for joining us tonight here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We got a wonderful speaker for you tonight, and I think you're going to really enjoy her because we have been really enjoying her presence with us for the last 2.5 weeks now. So you're probably getting bored with us here.
No, I love it. I'm enjoying you all so much.
So
Honored to be here.
We have traveled, we have done things, we rode horses, it's just been a great time. Yesterday we went to one of the biggest flea markets here in New Mexico, the Gallup Flea Market, and I think it lasted 3.5 hours we were there. It was great. We lost her for a while. She took off on her own just to visit, and I finally caught up to us again. But I want to welcome you from the land of the Pueblo people. We're here in the shadow of the mountain of the Sandia Mountain of the Sandia Pueblo people, and to the south of us is the Isleta Pueblo people. I want to recognize the land we're on. So I want to open us tonight with a prayer. Precious Lord, I may not know everything that everyone is going through, but you do. I don't know all their needs, but you know. Would you kindly extend even more grace, more provision, and grant more favor to those who need it most? For your compassion never fails, and your mercies endure forever. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So like I said, we have a good speaker this evening, and with all your faces, I think we're going to probably be the biggest viewing tonight. And owe it all to our special speaker, Christina, with all the connections that she has and all the connections that we have here. We have several people here tonight too. There's 6 people in present here, and we may even get a couple more. So I want to let you know that. I wanted to share one last thing with you because it kind of blessed my heart when somebody sent this to me, because sometimes we all kind of feel like we need a little encouragement. It says, and this is for all of you, in case no one told you today, you're beautiful, you're loved, you're needed, you're alive for a reason. You're stronger than you think. You're going to get through this. I'm glad you're alive. Don't give up. You know, we got challenges every day, and we need to know that God's with us, and we do have a great support network of Good Medicine Way, all the friends around us are able to call. So with that, I want to turn it over right now. I'm going to turn it over to Creation Insights with Leah.
All right. Thank you. Well, back in Chicago where we lived about 25 years, our church had this side yard in it, and every Monday night we would do our grill your own hamburgers, and all the fixing would be out there. And sure enough, at one point, a tiny little tomato seed found its way into this crack in the sidewalk right next to the building, and it just happened to be exactly under where the air conditioner, part between the pipes would drip exactly on that seed, and the sidewalk happened to be open a little bit there to get down to some dirt. And by the end of the summer, there was this great tomato plant. And I'm sure you've heard people talk about, blooming where you're planted, but also just ideas come to mind about, just it seems like impossible situations. Why did a Christian arise out of that family when there's no other Christians or something like that, or other things? But there's something that Terry Wildman put on his devotional website recently. Check this out. He said, every act of love, forgiveness, kindness, honesty, generosity, etc., shapes the world around us in ways we don't always see. These acts of love are seeds that will grow and bear fruit in multiple ways. This is how Creator's good road, the kingdom, overcomes the evil in this world. This is the way heaven comes to earth. Not in some huge climactic release of power, but in small seed-like ways. This way everyone can participate in bringing the ways of heaven to earth.
All right. Thank you, Leah. I wanted to share also, I didn't want to get too long-winded at the very beginning, but that's just a pastor in me. Wanted to send something else to you. I want to let you know we got almost 30 people online tonight, and let's hear it, everybody. This is great.
Melody.
The one thing I wanted to let you know is that we are trying to do what many people are trying to do, is decolonize the way church has been done. And the virtual program that we're doing has been a way for us to be a very hub of very good contextual teaching that we're able to share with people all around the world now. We have people joining us from Australia and the Philippines and other places. But you're going to get some very quality people that are in the trenches with ministry, and also those who are in academia doing the ministry that we need also. They need to figure out the theological parts for us too. And we have some of those on our screen tonight. I just wanted to share that with you. But our next order of worship that we have here is this week on Turtle Island. My wife Laura is going to be sharing with us right now. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Is the volume okay? Okay. So I was asked if I could just share a case that has happened in New Mexico, which happened in 2018. It's Yazzie / Martinez versus the state of New Mexico. And we're now entering 2 days from now, its 4th anniversary from a state's landmark case that really highlights, number one, the deficiency of public education to Indigenous children, Hispanic children, those that have low income, and students with disabilities. So I was asked to just give you a brief summary of the case. So here I go. Brief, like less than 5 minutes. So in a case, there's an issue, and that issue is brought forth by the plaintiff that says, we have a situation here that we want to present to the court to help us explore, examine, analyze this issue, and we're going to put on our facts, testimony, our arguments, and it's against another, it's against the defendants. And then the defendants are going to do the same. So in this particular case, it started out first with a mother of 3 children, and it was a Navajo mother who had 2 children in the public education school system. And she really felt that they were not getting all of their educational needs met. And then other families joined in on this case as the plaintiffs to sue the state of New Mexico, primarily the public education department, which in the past I used to work for the public education department. But so the case, the issue is whether New Mexico is meeting its constitutional obligation to provide an adequate, sufficient education to at-risk children. So that was the primary question to answer, and then answer with the court's ruling. What the plaintiffs have presented, again, is that New Mexico, this is 2018, New Mexico has the lowest graduation rates across the nation. Graduation rates at that time stood at 70%. Also, they put forth that New Mexico has that the children have a low proficiency rates in reading and in math. And they said that 70% of the students could not read or do math at their own grade level. The other is that there were high rates of college remediation. So many of the New Mexico students who graduated and went on to college, many of them had college remediation courses to just kind of help jumpstart them into the college pathway. So again, the families and organizations were suing the state because basically said you're violating the students' constitutional rights for an adequate and sufficient education. The ruling at that time in 2018, Judge Sarah Singleton ruled that all New Mexico students have a right to be college and career ready, and that the state failed to meet its New Mexico constitutional obligations under the New Mexico Education Clause, the Equal Protection Clause, and the Due Process Clause. And some of the failings in terms of state acts included the New Mexico Indian Education Act, the Bilingual Multicultural Education Act, and the Hispanic Educational Act. And that the judge also mentioned that just because there's a lack of funding is not adequate enough if you add more funding to address the problem, that it's historical and systemic, and they need to begin to address this. And so the finding was against the state, or the finding was on behalf of the plaintiffs. And the judge also in her ruling indicated that the Public Education Department had until April 15, 2019 to take immediate steps to ensure New Mexico students begin to have the necessary resources for that adequate and sufficient education. Okay, so that was 2018. Now we're going to jump to the here and now, 2022, because we're going to be entering the 4th anniversary from this ruling. So in December 2021, the New Mexico Public Education Department created a draft action plan, and the public had an opportunity for comments, and the comments ended June 17th. Turned out that the draft report or the draft action plan was about 50 pages. And some of the primary highlights within that action plan is that it's going to be dealing with issues with special education, missing performance benchmarks as a teacher or educators in the classroom, data collections, licensure, community schools, reducing the classroom size, extending the learning time, and even devoting, in this case for tribal schools or schools on the reservation that are also public education, New Mexico public education schools, $10.5 million for capital infrastructure, and to increase Native educators. What I also found, and which was really interesting, is a couple of days back, there was a huge Albuquerque Journal front page article about this state landmark case. And it also indicated that tribes and tribal leaders came together and they designed a tribal remedy framework. Now it looks like, according to my readings, is they're trying to integrate the tribal perspectives on how to work on resolving the systemic problem. So Wilhelmina Yazzie, she is the mother of 3 children, and she was the original plaintiff. And I want to close this part because in the newspaper article, there is a quote from her that she still remains hopeful because her 3rd child this coming fall will be entering 1st grade. So she says, I still have yet another 12 years to advocate for my little one. We're such a diverse state. We're such a beautiful state. We have such beautiful cultures and backgrounds, and we could actually climb back up to the top if we really work together. So that is a short synopsis of a landmark case that happened in New Mexico. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. That was very good. And we need to be updated with those kind of things that are making changes. And yes, we all have a chance to help our children to become the best they can be. So what we got coming up right now is we're going to have a song by the Grovers. I believe they got a song from a friend that would have been here, but COVID kind of restricted us and changes. Glenn Kaiser, they're going to have a song for us. So let's give it over to them right now.
All right. So yeah, new song for the group. It's a song that was written back in the early 90s. And it's kind of written in the style of the old kind of call and response spirituals. But I feel really good about using this song tonight because thematically it works. And then also I was rewatching the documentary Rumble the other night, which is about the influence of Indigenous people in American music. And they had a whole thing, a pretty large segment in there with the gals from Ulali. And they were talking about how what is really identified as like Black spiritual music in this country was really a melding and a coming together of the Southeastern Native Nations melodies with the African rhythms. So when the Blacks who were brought over as slaves began to get to know the Native people, they brought their art and music together, and out of that was born what we now identify as like old-time spirituals. So so this song is written in that style. So it's kind of classic call and response. So in the choruses, I really want you guys all to join in at home, full-throated with reckless abandon. So the choruses are really simple. It just says, we are surrounded a bunch of times. And so it's like a call and response. So like I'll sing, we are surrounded. You guys are all, we are surrounded. 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 So it keeps building up. And then all together we all sing, we are surrounded by the witness cloud. And then the verses are kind of the same. You can kind of just follow along with those as best you can, but really I want you to totally join in on those choruses and switch over to the singing microphones and stuff, and we'll get underway. Actually, then we're going to do a Jonathan Merrick song after that. So let me get my cursor strategically placed. So keep ready to go. All right. We are surrounded by the witness cloud. We are surrounded. 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 We are surrounded by the witness cloud. We are surrounded.
surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded by the witness cloud. Now fire at the nighttime, fire at night. Well, he's separating darkness and light. He's a still small voice and the thunder loud. We are surrounded by the witness cloud. We are surrounded. Yeah, we are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded by the witness cloud. Now don't deny him. He knows your name. He knows your address from whence you came. He gave us the witnesses above and around. We are surrounded by the witness cloud. We are surrounded. Yeah, we are surrounded. 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 We are surrounded by the witness cloud. Drop all the weight of the sin and the shame. Don't be entangled with the worldly gain. You need that endurance before the trumpet sounds. We're all surrounded by the witness cloud. Receive His mercy. He's coming down with the host of heaven and the witness cloud. Now we are surrounded. Yeah, we are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. Yeah, we are surrounded. Yeah, surrounded by the witness cloud. Now we are surrounded by. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded. We are surrounded by the witness cloud. Yes, we are surrounded by the witness cloud. We are surrounded by the witness cloud. The love of His Son, we raise up your banner. To your voice we come from the distant nations. To your voice we run away. Yahweh, oh, Gaia Wane, oh, Yahweh, oh, Gaia Wane, oh, Yahweh, oh, Gaia Wane, oh. Alone as one, hear the drum beat. Today we are one. You raise up your banners. To your voice we come from the distant nations. To your voice we run away. Yahweh.
All right, that was good. Good song. I can't wait to hear those songs with Jonathan Miracle coming up here. And going on with that, that's announcement time with Heather Jim right now.
So the first one is the offering, which will be on the Facebook group. And if you feel the led to give, yeah, we really thank you for that. So it enables a lot of people to get the First Nations Bible version, so that we can, people have a hard time financially, we're able to help them out. And they really greatly appreciate having a First Nations Bible. And the next thing is, if you're in a couple weeks, there's the, well, actually, no, it's next week. Wachoni camp is next week. So if you're coming, we'll see you there. And yeah, and it's, yeah, I hope to, it's like it's gonna be an exciting time. It's the first time I'm gonna be there. So I don't know how it really works, but now I'm gonna see. And the next one is the Women's Circle, is every Wednesday night at 7 for the ladies here. You're more than welcome to join. And I understand if you're busy or things come up or you don't feel very well too. I mean, that happens. We're all human. So whenever you can join us and make it, it's whenever is possible for you. So we don't want to rush you or make you do anything you don't want to do. It's a safe space. Oh, wait, it's a brave space, I should say. So well, you're welcome to join us. And if there's any other announcements, go for it.
Family camp announcements. Like the Wachoni Family Camp is going to be, like you said, coming up. It'd be great to have Heather and Preston going to be with us. Christina's also going to be there with us, and my family. We're going to be joined by Jonathan Miracle. It's going to be he and I and others. We're organizing this for many months, and this will be the first time after COVID that we'll be coming together here. I say after COVID, we'll never be over COVID, but during COVID, when it's a downtime. Terry Wildman is also going to be there. He's going to be doing a talk on the First Nations version while he's there. And Laura and I will be doing some cultural teachings while we're there. And we do an all-day powwow on Saturday. We put it on and the public come. I got this feeling that we're going to be overwhelmed by the number of people that are coming. So it's like people want to get together again. And that's going to be really fun. The other time that's coming up is that if you can't join that family camp, there's going to be another one that Jonathan's going to be involved in. It's going to be in Virginia. It's going to be the first week of August at the Rockahawk Camp, just east of Richmond, Virginia, and just south of Jamestown. Great place. They're going to be, this will be the first time we've done it since COVID there as well. Jonathan will be at that one, so he's got a full schedule. And if you can't make that one, you're still not out of luck there, because the end of August, 25, 26, 27, 28, is going to be the Pine Lake Camp in Alberta, Canada. Myself, Laura, Jonathan, again, will be up there at that camp, and we'll be having a great time. We structure it basically the same as the Wachoni Family Camp. So there'll be teaching circles, there'll be singing, and there'll be an all-day powwow. And we have many vendors that come to that powwow as well. So look forward to those things that are happening. So those are my announcements. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Got a
I
hand
was going to say, over here. I was going to say mid-August is when we are going to start working on the First Nations version of Psalms and Proverbs. So I will be part of the council this time. I've been a reader for many of the other books in the New Testament, so I'm excited for that. So it's just does so much good for so many people. I'm proud to be a part of that.
Awesome. I want to introduce my daughter, Sean Dean. I want her to come on up here. Sean Dean has been asked to be a part of this this new section that they're doing of Psalms and Proverbs. So she has accepted, and so she's going to be involved with Kimberly. You'll be seeing her and get to know her. So thank you, Sean Dean. Yeah, thank you.
Well, has Ken told people about the Doctrine of Discovery Conference?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Well,
It's registration's done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. We just want to make known that some of us are going to be attending Dismantling the Adoption of Discovery. Our friend Ken Gingrich is here, and they're going to be doing a program here in Albuquerque, New Mexico on that. So we're excited about that coming up there. Is there any other hands? Raise your hand if you got an announcement.
Go ahead, Diane.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add my little 2 cents to Heather's mention of the Women's Circle and say what a wonderful discussion we have every week, reading the First Nations version, and just hearts are opened. And I hope some of the ladies will come try us out. It's wonderful.
I have yesterday, I was invited by Dennis Bailey from Brazil to do a talk to be translated into Portuguese. So this was the first time that I've done that. And I was just like this. I was nervous, but had a lot of prayers for me that that would go well. And it went very well. I'm used to talking, just kind of flowing with my conversation, but I was forced to put it into segments that Dennis's father could interpret. So that really was something very different. And it was really well taken, the talk. The young pastors that were on, you could tell by their eyes and their thumbs up that they were encouraged by what was shared with them. So I just wanted to give you like a praise report that went really well. So with that, we got Creator's Word. And who's reading? I can't. Okay, sorry, it's all small print for me. We're going to be reading Hebrews 11:32 through 12:3 from the First Nations version. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. So here we go. So many brave ones to honor. If I had more time, I would tell you about he tears down, lightning flashing across the sky, strength of the sun, and he breaks out. I would also tell the stories of Chief Much Loved One, of Creator Hears Him, and the prophets. Because men such as these trusted the Great Spirit, they won the victory over nations, made wrongs right again, took hold of promises, and closed the mouths of hold on, my pages got stuck together, of mountain lions. They defeated the power of fire and escaped the long knives of their enemies. The weak were made strong and became great warriors who drove their enemies away. Women received their loved ones back from the dead. Others were tortured, refusing to be set free, knowing they would be honored when the dead are raised. Some were insulted and mocked, whipped with leather straps, or chained and thrown into prison. Some were killed with rocks. Others were cut in two. Others faced temptation, and some were cut down by long knives. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, hunted down, mistreated, and in need of many things. They roamed aimlessly through deserts and mountains, living in caves and holes in the ground. The world is not worthy of people like this. Creator provided something better. Even though these faithful ones have been honored for showing what it means to trust Creator, they did not receive all that was promised. But the Great Spirit has provided something better for us who live in these last days. So now those who came before us can finally see Creator's promise come to its full meaning and purpose. For without us, they would not be complete in the chosen one. A great cloud of truth tellers. We're surrounded by a great cloud of truth tellers who have shown us what it means to trust the Great Spirit. So let us lay to the side everything that weighs us down and the broken ways that so easily wrap around our legs to trip us. And let us run as if we are in a long distance race. setting a steady pace and heading toward the goal. This means we must keep our eyes on Creator Sets Free Jesus, the trailblazer of our spiritual ways, the one who was first to reach the end of the trail. The joy that lay before him gave him the strength to suffer on the cross and willingly bear its shame. He now sits at Creator's right hand in the place of greatest honor. If you will keep your thoughts on how much hostility Creator Sets Free endured from those with bad hearts and broken ways, it will keep you from growing weary and your hearts from falling to the ground. For in your struggle against bad hearts and broken ways, you have not yet had to face your own blood being shed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. We're going to have Heather Jim. It's going to be introducing our speaker tonight, and I'll probably add a little bit to that on the end because she's been with us here now. We've been together now for over a month because she was at my class in Nova Scotia at Acadia University too. So Heather, you're on.
So introducing Christina. I'm trying to think of how to say your last name, but then I'm always like, oh no, I'm going to say it wrong.
Quintanilla.
Christina Quintanilla. And I'm gonna read my notes here. Say it, multiethnic Indigeneity. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong, but I have the words right. Indigeneity, with ancestors on both sides of the U.S. and Mexico border. Prior to receiving her Master's of Intercultural Studies at NAITS, she graduated from UCLA and served as a Justice Specialist for InterVarsity Central California, Las Vegas region. And then speaking and writing on spiritual formation, decolonized theology, and Justicia brings her joy. Man, my brain is trying to go to Spanish and English, and I'm like, no, there's no Spanish word. Pronunciation here is like, oh no. She has a deep desire to see BIPOC women empowered and commissioned as healers. When she's not hitting the books, you can find her soap making, singing, or salsa dancing the night away. And to add to, I'm pretty sure she knows a lot of the staff at InterVarsity for the Denver Urban Plunge for the Justice Movement. Makaiba too. There's also Makaiba. So I'm not sure if you know everyone, but hopefully, as time goes on, we'll probably see more of each other, especially at Wishoni Camp. So yeah, with Casey taking over.
Thank you, Heather. To add to that, Christina has been for the last 2.5 weeks here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She is the first intern in a field placement that NAITS, an Indigenous learning community, is sponsoring. So the first one to go through it here. We're having a great time visiting. She's learning a lot. It is academic, so she is having to do some reading and writing for this class. With an extension that we'll be doing on it, she'll be finishing up at the end of August. So she has been with me in Nova Scotia at Acadia, where I taught a class on Indigenous spirituality. And I just want to keep that with that. So we're going to give it over to Christina now for the rest of our time here. Let's give it up.
Thank you, friends and family. As I'm just looking at the screen, it brings me so much joy to see all of your beautiful faces. There's new faces. There's friends and family from all over Turtle Island, from so many different places. And I just want to extend my love and grace and just say thank you for being with us today. So glad to have you with us. So if I was in an academic setting, I'd put on my academic hat, but this is family time. So I just want to set the tone that this is just going to be a time of sharing, a time of letting you in on my journey. That has been, my family's been a part of it, a beautiful and wild ride. And a lot of you have been a part of my journey. And particularly, the topic tonight is ancestor medicine. So talking about the great cloud of witnesses and what does that actually mean and look like today, as we don't really hear about that often. So I'll be sharing the ways that I've been experiencing that on my own journey. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. So yeah, the topic for that tonight is ancestor medicine, stories of reconnecting and reclaiming as a multi-ethnic Indigenous woman. So a little bit about me. My name is Christina. As I said, I'm multi-ethnic. I have ancestors from both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border here on Turtle Island, which I'll share a little bit more specificity in a little bit. But something that God has really been speaking into my life is, what does it mean for me having the blood of Indigenous peoples as well as the blood of settlers and flowing through my veins? What does that mean for me from both sides of the border? And so much of my story has been deconstructing the identities that are placed on us, deconstructing even borders within myself, and really asking God to speak on my identity journey. So thank you for joining me. Growing up, stories of the past really oriented me within my family, my borderlands family. But what I didn't know as a child that I'm grateful to know today is that things like historical violence, displacement, and settler colonialism were responsible for that feeling of just not fitting in, that feeling of borders inside of myself. Through a series of really unexpected encounters, Espiritu Santo, Holy Spirit, has really invited me on an ongoing journey of harmony. The past decade of my life has really been a journey of acculturation, a journey of reclaiming my Indigenous roots, and orienting myself within the geography and the stories of my people. One of the first encounters that I had was, I was at the time a student at UCLA, and I remember looking around at our fellowship and noticing that there were not a lot of brown folks in the fellowship. And feeling in my heart that God was like, I'm giving you a sense of the emotions that I feel, to want to see all people come to know God, to want to see all people welcome to the table. So I felt like God was calling me. At that time, I was a student into ministry. I started a group. At the time, Latino students were the minority at the UCLA campus, and we started a group that really flourished and became a home and grew. And at the time, I was figuring out, what does it mean to be Mexican? And what does it mean for me, even though I'm multi-ethnic and this part of me? And much like I think the story of Moses, the Lord was like reminding me, these are my people, and my solidarity is also tied to this group. When I thought that journey came to an end, Creator surprised me again and again and again and again. So it has been a wild ride that continues. And so I'm inviting you, and I'll continue sharing more, into a really beautiful and also really raw journey of reclaiming. And that has been really hard and really, really beautiful and really unexpected. Listening to the cries of my ancestors, learning the depth of historical violence on both sides of the border, it really leaves me with a deep sense of conviction that not only do we carry generational trauma, but we carry deep, deep ancestral medicine, intergenerational medicine, that God gives us access to, that our ancestors are surrounding us. And I can say that I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be even here at Good Medicine Way today if God and my ancestors weren't surrounding me and leading me. This is my very, very special Grandma Rosie on the screen. She has been such a light in my life. I called her second mom, and she basically helped raise me. She was one of the most tangible expressions of Jesus's love in my life, and a real maternal, beautiful kind of love. I remember as a kid, she'd kind of grab my face. She'd say, "We're having this quiet moment." She'd grab my face and just kind of hold me there, like without even any words. And there's a sense of like, oh my gosh, I'm so loved. And I'm so grateful for that. We lost Grandma in 2020, but she lived such a beautiful life. And as you will hear, little teasers, I know that she's still with me, and her love is still guiding me. So I want to open with this question. What would change for you if you knew that you were surrounded and supported at every level, at every step of your journey? I want you to kind of hold that question. What would change for you if you knew you were surrounded and supported at every level? I love this picture. The roots never forget their flowers. That you can see this woman, this ancestor that's still a part of this young woman's life. This picture spoke to me, so I included it. So we're talking about the great cloud of witnesses, Hebrews 11:40. I'm going to just really give a little tiny talking point on this. So now those who came before us can finally see Creator's promise come to full meaning and purpose. For without us, they would not be complete in the chosen one. So if we look up the original Greek language, and I'm just going to do a little tiny, the word is choris, apart from. So these ancestors, this great cloud, without us, apart from us, they would not be complete. And the word for complete is telio, made complete, consummate, perfected. So apart from us, without us living and breathing and being, our ancestors would not be complete or perfected. That's something that I never really thought about until I kept having all these wild experiences that the Lord would allow me to have on my journey. And I think that's a question we're holding. What does that mean, as we're going to be exploring today? What does it mean that the great cloud is not only surrounding us at all times, we're supported at every level, but there's something, there's this sacred reciprocity. Without us, they would not be complete in the chosen one. What does that mean? And how I'm going to frame this, I said this is family time, this is storytelling. I'm going to just open up my life, different stories where God has really allowed the voices of the great cloud, of ancestors, to really speak into my life.
Your face.
No, it's good.
You can see
this in here.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So the first story I want to share, this was the beginning of my journey. The beginning of my journey of reclaiming, of reconnecting. I was at a conference. Some of you are from InterVarsity. It was an InterVarsity conference, and at the time, I had never seen a land acknowledgement done at a conference. And another thing is, I had never heard, they had some hand drum singers come up to the stage, and that's something they had never done in our community before at this conference. So these hand drum singers came up to the stage, they were singing, they were drumming, and there's something that I will never forget. There was a deep sense of, in my belly, I just started weeping. I started weeping when these drummers, these hand drum singers started singing and making music. And I remember feeling like there's something inside me that's grieving, but I'm not quite sure what. There's something beyond what my mind can conceive that my heart and spirit are feeling at this time. And I remember talking with God, and what's going on, Lord? Why am I weeping? You know, why am I feeling all these emotions? And I remember just God telling me, it's time to know the stories of your ancestors. It's time to learn the stories of your ancestors. It was very clear to me in that moment that my body, my spirit held these memories, held my ancestors, even if I at the time didn't even know, you know, what was going on in my family. I thought of my grandpa. I thought of some of my great grandpas and grandmothers. He knows I might need to shave. This is me. So I'm going to share, this is my beginning when I started digging. This was the time when it was like, okay, this is time. But a really beautiful word I remember God speaking to me is, there's just not pain in this journey. There's just not trauma, but there's gifts on the journey. There's medicine on the journey for you. So these are my ancestors from all over Turtle Island. And I love this picture of a decolonial map because it shows Turtle Island without separation. And you might need to zoom in a little. I'm realizing it's a little smaller on this screen, but you can see a picture of Turtle Island and the first peoples who resided here and the first stewards of the land. And I mapped out my family, where we come from. And I'll just kind of start in these corners. Over here, you can see my mouse good. This is Grandpa Paul and Uncle Velmer. And there's also aunties as well that were born in the Oklahoma area over here. But before that, my great-grandfather was in Tennessee. And my grandpa, my mom grew up with my grandpa always telling her, reminding her that she's Native, reminding her, Cindy, you are Cherokee and Apache. But he didn't really pass down culture and tradition. We heard from a cousin that Uncle Velmer was someone that spoke the language. So I wonder even if my grandpa spoke the language, but there was a steep disconnection. And there was a lot of questions and missing documents and paper trails on the journey, which I'll continue to share about. But this is part of my family, and this is our journey from here. My grandpa, during the Dust Bowl, there was a shortage of work. He came to Yokut's land and helped on the railroads. This is my great grandmother and some of my great Uncle Jess and Tia Mary. And this part of the family came from Raramuri region. And this is over here in the Chihuahua region. And my great grandma, I hear, was a really tough woman. She fled domestic violence. She was taking care of her family as a single mother. And during the Great Depression was when, at that time, the borders were kind of open, and she moved over and did farm working here. And then over here, the last quadrant, this is my grandma Martha is still alive here. This is my Papa Jesus and Mama Lupe. and they are from Purepecha region, which is the first peoples here in the Guanajuato, Cerro Gordo region. My grandma shares stories of her grandma, her great grandma coming from Big Forest, Cerro Gordo, and stories about her. My grandpa was a bracero, and same at that time, the borders were open and they were needing agricultural work, so he'd go back and forth here, and eventually the family came over to Yucatán. This is where I was born, here in Yucatán. I also put these little arrows or these lines here because my family, every part of my family is mixed. And so you have my family that has always been here on Turtle Island, and then I have family members that were settlers, that were colonizing. And I have English and Irish here, and then Spanish over here. So that's been part of my journey, is reconciling that on the journey. And those are part of my ancestors. And I carry beauty and violence and all of the above. And how does God want to speak into that? Oops. Okay, I told you a little bit about my grandma. I'm just going to briefly kind of share. It has been so apparent after my grandma passed away. I have understood at a deeper level, the great cloud of witnesses, that it's not just this, our ancestors are angels in the sky, playing little harps on the clouds, and they're far away somewhere. But there's this real, tangible expression of love. And that same love that I was talking to you about, that my grandma would just grab my face and I would feel a sense of just like that presence of love. There are moments that after she's passed, I've experienced an even greater depth of that love. Like, I put this here, when I see the sun shining through the trees, there have been literal moments where I'm just crying. I feel that same presence of love. Like, she's just grabbing my face and I'm still here with you. And maybe you guys can also, I'm sure that you've experienced this too with loved ones. You can put a little emoji if you've experienced that with any of your special grandmas, parents, any loved ones. Some good grandma medicine. Another part of my journey, I was telling you that my mom and I were reaching some roadblocks in our understanding, particularly my grandpa that always shared that we were Cherokee and Apache. And we found some aunties on the Chickasaw rolls. We found some aunties in, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but let me see if I. The Go'astuiska family genealogy. Emmett Starr was a Cherokee genealogist, and he documented some of the Cherokee families in the 1890s. And we found my auntie in that genealogy and her family. But we're also still reaching paper trails. We can't find us on the Dawes rolls. And there's so many questions about, why are we in these other documents, but we're not there? And I was in this place, and my mom can tell you, we were like, I need all the papers to tell me who I am. Like, if I have this paper, this is going to prove that, I'm Indigenous enough, because I've always felt being multi-ethnic. Just being 100% transparent, not always feeling enough of anything. But the Lord really speaking into that, the Lord really giving me a sense of wholeness that doesn't just come from papers. So one of those moments, my mom and I were like, let's go. And we thought we were going to go and find all the missing documents and have all of our answers. And it's just going to take one summer. It's going to be great. We're going to do all this, right? So my mom is here she's probably going to be laughing. And God had other plans for us. It happened that a lot of the facilities were closed. COVID was a little bit heavier in the area, and so a lot of places were closed, but we're like, God still has something for us. Let's see what the land is speaking. What does the land want to speak to us? What does God want to impart to us on this journey that God's obviously leading us on, the ancestors are obviously leading us on? Well, we were in the Chickasaw Recreation area, which is very close to where my grandpa was born. Another really cool thing, which my mom will tell you, is we kept seeing my grandpa's name everywhere. On the map, on, this random paper, or in a museum. And we're just like, okay, yeah, he's telling us we're in the right place, keep going. So we were on the land, and I tend to wander off into places. I like to, which some people can know, I'm a little bit adventurous. Let me go wander and see what I find. I wandered a little far, and it got dark, and we were just surrounded by fireflies. And it was just this beautiful experience of it felt really holy. We were surrounded by these fireflies, and I had this overwhelming feeling of my ancestors are with me. My ancestors are so glad that I'm here. I felt a sense of the land welcoming me, being glad that I was here, that I'm a part of the land that I was standing on. That's a picture of my grandpa and auntie and uncles. And sometimes I think, okay, this is beautiful. Am I also just crazy? What's going on? I walk over to my mom, and I'm gonna just play this little video. This is when I came back from wandering. This was my mom and what she was experiencing at the same time. Uh-oh. Can you hear the sound? Do I need to share the sound?
I'm trying to share your sound.
Oh, let me see. Share sound. Share. Sorry, friends. I think I clicked it. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, let's try this again. Tell me if you can hear this. Well, how about I just share with you what's going on here, just for the sake of time. So I come back from my wanderings, and this video, you can see some of the fireflies that are just kind of really brightly shining. And I get to my mom, and my mom is just crying. She's having a moment. And I was asking Mom, what are you experiencing right now? And she was noticing one of the fireflies just had a heartbeat. And it was there was something that really connected her. We had a moment of prayer that she also saw a heartbeat. She was like, I feel like the land is welcoming us. She was just crying. I feel like the ancestors are here. They're glad that we're here. So I realized it's in our DNA, it's in our bodies, it's in our spirits. My mom is experiencing the same feeling that I am on the journey. Mom, did you want to share anything? I know that you're out there. Did you want to briefly share anything about that moment?
Yeah, I just felt like our my mom, Rosie, was there with us. Because we had been praying and we had felt like her presence was there. And just like creation was speaking to us, and that Granny was trying to tell us that she was there also. It was just really beautiful. Everything about the trip was beautiful. Really connecting with the land where our ancestors came from, learning more. We had probably other, we wanted to find information that was very tangible, and like Christina said, paperwork and, items and documents and, going to the museums and just really finding things that were very concrete. But the Lord wanted to speak to us in that journey in a different way. He spoke to us through the land, and it was just so beautiful. The minute we arrived, I just felt like the trees were speaking to us, and nature was just speaking to us and greeting us and welcoming us. And it was just a wonderful feeling that I had never felt before. To be surrounded by nature and to feel like nature was speaking to us, probably for the first time in my life, feeling like the trees and the animals and everything was in harmony and welcoming us and surrounding us, and almost like giving us a great big hug in our journey. So it was beautiful.
Thank you, Mom, for sharing and being a part of the journey. I've kind of roped my mom, and you're coming with me. We're going to learn about our ancestors. We're going to walk the land. And she's just been so beautiful and a beautiful part of the journey. And thank you, Mom, for sharing. So this is another moment from Oklahoma. Kind of like my mom was saying as well. She was telling me, I've now reached a point of life where I'm in a different stage of life. I'm in my mid-50s, which I think she's a really young mom. She was a really young mom. Anyway, she was like, but it's just now that I'm understanding a part of myself and a part of my dad and a part of where we come from. And it's never too late. And it's never too late to reconnect, to allow our ancestors to speak to us, to allow God to deepen our connection to who we are. So a really cool thing that happened when we were in Oklahoma is we were just praying, would you put us exactly where we need to be on this trip? And we were visiting my great-grandpa's gravesite. And as we were leaving, we met this guy, and he was like, you're not from around here, who are you guys? Like, what are you up to? We just started chatting, sharing our story, sharing why we're there, sharing about we're reconnecting to our family who, lived here. And he was connected to the Kiowa community, and there was a multi-tribal powwow. He said, guess what? We haven't had this powwow in 2 years, and this only happens once a year. But you happen to be here on the exact day that it's happening. And I want you to come be a part of this. And this powwow was up in the mountains, a town called Lone Wolf in Oklahoma. And when we got there, it was just really beautiful experience to be on these lands where my ancestors were at a powwow with community, that God had brought us there. I was seeing, the beautiful regalia and the dancing and the drumming. And I just remember praying and telling God, just this bittersweet moment of beauty, but also of, gosh, I wish that I was able to learn this. I wish that I knew how to dance to, this drum beat. I wish that I knew, what regalia I'm supposed to wear. I wish I had grown up with this, that we weren't having to reach. But here we are, Lord, and one day I want to learn. And I was thinking to myself, maybe I'll dance at a powwow like 10 years from now when I'm an expert and I finally arrive. You know, you have these silly thoughts, which are like super colonial. But anyway, it just so happened there was a drawing, as usually there are at powwows, and guess what? I won the drawing, and they gave me this beautiful shawl, and this woman came up to me and she was like, now you can wear this at every powwow, and come with me. I'm going to teach you how to dance. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you what this drum means and what kind of dance this is, and come with me. You probably can't hear because my sound's being wild, but this was a really beautiful moment for me because there you go. I just saw God can gift us with everything that has been stolen from us. God can do however He wants. It's never too late. God can gift us back with gifts that ancestors wanted us to receive. And I felt again this great cloud of witnesses. These ancestors were giving us these good gift, good medicine for the journey. So thank you for listening in on some very real experiences of ancestor medicine, of the great cloud surrounding my family on every level as we've been reclaiming and we've been reconnecting. So many more things I could share about, like being a part of the Decolonizing with Badass Indigenous Grandmas cohort and all the reclaiming there, and all of the connections I have with many of you because of Nate's, because of God knowing, oh, you need to know this person. You need to know the church family. You need to know Good Medicine Way. You need to know the Nate's community. How God can gift us back with all the things that were stolen from us, with connections, with a deeper sense, more than what something like blood quantum or a card or a document can give us. There's a real sense that we have been surrounded by this great cloud of ancestors. There has been and continues to be at every level this good medicine, good ancestor medicine. We're surrounded by a great cloud of truth tellers who have shown us what it means to trust the Great Spirit. Before that segment, it talks about these heroes of the faith. And it talks about even just atrocities that they endured. And I couldn't help but, as I read this so beautifully in the First Nations version, to really resonate with what so many of our ancestors have gone through. And there's something, there's healing that our ancestors have for us on the journey. But I also believe that as we are healing, there's medicine for our ancestors. It's not just one way. There's a reciprocity. There's a sacred reciprocity of this. And what does it mean to run the good race of continuing on, continuing to reclaim, continuing to heal so that the next 7 generations also receive healing? I loved I've been reading, and I absolutely love this from Medicine Man Bill and Dr. Naran, who is Apache Tiwan Lakota. 7 generations of ancestors and 7 generations of the unborn are with you because they are wanting to heal. I feel like I have experienced that in so many ways, and it reminds me of sweetgrass. like sweetgrass for representing the 7 generations before us, but also the 7 generations that are to come. And in this reclaiming journey, you know, a lot of times colonization tries to cut this cord. And so many of us are in this journey of reweaving and rebraiding so that the next generations can receive healing. And so that our ancestors can also receive healing. One of the recent sacred moments that God has given me, I was praying and I just saw myself surrounded by loved ones that had passed on and ancestors that I didn't know. And some of them were dressed in regalia and they were dancing, and some of them were just shining like a bright light towards me. And I just remember asking God, like, what does this mean? You know, what does this mean? And I did feel the sense of these ancestors are also receiving their healing as you heal, as you reconnect, as you reclaim. And I don't believe that's just for me. I believe so many of us, as we reclaim, as we heal, as we understand the beauty and the pain that our ancestors have endured, and we come to that place of mind, body, spirit healing, allowing God and ancestors to speak in, there's healing for our ancestors. That verse that we talked about in the beginning, without us, they would not be made complete. So there's a beautiful and sacred responsibility to the next 7 generations, but also to our ancestors. There's good medicine. It's not just trauma. It's not just tears. There's good medicine. There's good healing on the journey. This is one of my ancestors, Mama Lupe, that I was chatting. I probably got a little ahead of myself with the sweetgrass, but it reminds me of sweetgrass. It reminds me of, at Good Medicine Way, things that are happening, of we're reclaiming our sacred practices and doing them unto the Lord. And that's beautiful, and that's healing, and that's good medicine. We're at Good Medicine Way. But I have to believe that this is not just something for me and my family. This is for all of us. This is for us as Indigenous people. And one thing that I also saw in prayer, that moment when I was praying and I saw myself surrounded by this great cloud, I saw my Indigenous ancestors, but I also saw my settler ancestors. And I saw some of my settler ancestors, and they were weeping. And they were weeping, and there was like this knowing that after passing on that they had received, of weeping, of like, what have I done? Not only have I caused pain to so many people, but I've caused pain to my own descendants. And this weeping that was happening. And I remember this sense of like, God was kind of like, they need your forgiveness so that they can join the community again. And there was a part of me in that moment that I think now in the journey, I think the Lord has done a lot of good and gracious work in me, that I was able to have a really good moment of prayer, of releasing and forgiving and letting go. But I think 5 years ago or something, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have been real angsty. Anyways, there's such good medicine for everyone on the journey. I'd like to I know that we are running short on time, so I'm just gonna do like 1 or 2 minutes, inviting us into God's presence and inviting us to see what would the ancestors want to say to you. Is there a word that your ancestors is there a gift that they might want to impart to you? So if you could just close your eyes with me and just enter into a meditative posture. We thank you, Creator, that you are here with us. that you desire our healing, our flourishing for our ancestors and for the next 7 generations and beyond. We thank you, ancestors, that you support the journey. We thank you that we're surrounded by this great cloud. I want you in your mind's eye to just envision this cloud, this great cloud before you. Orient yourself with this great cloud. Who's there? In your mind's eye, keep imagining that great cloud before you. Is anyone saying something to you? God, I pray that you'd also reveal, is there a gift that the ancestors want to impart to you? Would you show my brothers and sisters in a picture, in a word? Is there a gift that the ancestors want to give to you? And is there a gift that you have to give to the ancestors? Creator, would you reveal that if there's a gift that I have to give to the ancestors? Thank you, Creator Jesus, for the beautiful reclaiming, reconnecting that's possible through you. Thank you that we are surrounded at every level of the journey by this great cloud of witnesses, by our ancestors who are cheering us on, who are believing for our healing, that we carry our ancestors with us. We pray for healing for our ancestors and healing for the next 7 generations. Would we all walk in a good way? Would you use this to bring harmony to our families, but also to the world, to Indigenous communities everywhere, to even settler communities? Would you help us to bring good medicine, God? Amen.
Wow. Thank you, Christina. Let's give her a so good. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody that's on right now. I have a special request. I did put it inside the chat, but we have such a great cloud of viewers tonight that if you would indulge me, if you would please put your face on in place of your name. We'd like to take a couple of screenshots and save this moment. So if you're able to put a screenshot on of yourself, and then we'd like to share that with the people that support us here so that they know that we're doing a good thing here. So as many as possible. I know that we got to take 2 screenshots because we got so many. We have 2 different levels here with 30 some people. So,
You guys look great.
Yay!
yeah, look at those. Yeah. Would you take 2 screenshots?
Sure, I'll take some screenshots.
We'll let Christina take a couple of screenshots. So make sure you get your face on.
Okay.
Oh, yes, people still coming in.
Okay.
We'll give you a minute to get your video.
When
Laura, I see you're still on the face. And me.
when
Wait.
we'll wait for Uncle Casey real quick.
There we go.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
And then there's another page.
Uh-oh.
We get another page.
1, 2, 3. And then page number 2. Sorry, friends.
Okay, page number 2 now. Oh my goodness, I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
Okay. Page number 2. 1, 2, 3.
How did you get over?
Yay! When we're gonna have a little Q&A in a second, and I'd also love to hear about your stories, your journeys, and even if when we had that time of prayer, of meditation, if you received anything in that time as well. anything resonated with you.
I'm going to turn over the Q&A time to Preston Jones. He's one of our team here. Preston?
Thank you, Casey. So who wants to jump into the Q&A? There's Growers, do you see anything off of Facebook or Dave?
We know some of you are on a similar journey like she is, and some of you are beginning a journey. So be encouraged that she's been very diligent. She wants to find that paper trail. She got to nail it down, so she got identity that's firm in her heart and her soul. She feels like she belongs to another group that's just out there. And I know some of you also have that kind of feeling. So if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll give you a chance to come on. Question or comment.
Someone raise their hand. Oh, Gabriel?
Anything?
Okay. Go ahead.
Is it Debbie? Can I see Debbie's hand?
Yeah.
Hey, Debbie.
Debbie, welcome.
So good connecting with you guys tonight. I miss you both already. And, you know, I loved what you were saying, Christina, about how we have 7 ancestors connected to us and 7 future generations connected to us. And I remember while I was going through seminary, I had returned from Iraq, and like God laid on my heart to do kind of this family history research. And you know, I think growing up in Connecticut, we didn't have a whole lot. Not many people in my family were educated. Certainly they did not value diversity. And so I really felt like it was the Holy Spirit that brought me to the story of an ancestor on another branch of the family tree who was an abolitionist and someone who really served his whole life to bring justice to other people. And it was so funny because during seminary, I would get so distracted wanting to do more and more research on him. And every time I had like a church history paper, I would want to write about him. And even today, like everything I do, I sense his presence and I sense his influence. And so just thank you for acknowledging that we have ancestors that are praying for us and rooting for us and speaking to our heart on how we need to live our lives for God and how we live our lives for other people. So it was an absolute blessing to meet you both a couple weekends ago. So thank you for being on tonight.
Thank you, Meryl. And Gabriel, would you like to go next?
Sure. Excuse me for laying down. By the way, I'm recovering still from a trip to the emergency room, but still here. And I was just so refreshed hearing the amazing visual, hearing as well as seeing the amazing visual journey that was presented. And so I just want to ask in the work that Christina has done to understand, no, I'm sorry, in the work that's been done to understand your family roots and the tributaries or rivers that came together to make your river specifically Were you surprised or intrigued at discovering people that had a similar story to you? What I mean similar, by similar, I mean, do you discover people that were also multiracial as well? And the same kind of experience when you were doing your work on your paper trail?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question, Gabriel. And thanks for being here, even when you're covering. Yes, that has been such an encouragement. Is the microphone on?
You're good.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. That has been such an encouragement to me on the journey. Seeing other folks that are multi-ethnic, multiracial, that are Indigenous from across the Americas, that are on their journey of wholeness, because we're not little bento boxes. We are whole. We are a product of so much, right? There's violence and beauty and God making something, God redeeming our experiences and our stories. And that's been really encouraging, seeing other folks on the journey. Even folks here. I see some of my mixed folks here and love you all. And so glad to be on the journey with others that are, that are on our own journeys too. And to be received by the community as we are a beautiful, messy, wild journey, walking question marks, following Jesus into the mysteries.
That's cool.
I've been working for the last couple of weeks with Christina. I'd like her to share a little bit about her experience, maybe even starting with the class, and then coming here to Albuquerque and what it's meant to you as part of your journey.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question too. I just feel so honored to be here, because being here with Uncle Casey, Auntie Laura, the church family, with Good Medicine Way, it's part of that journey of God helping me to reclaim, to be an Indigenous community, to even kind of normal moments with folks. There was a moment where Auntie Laura could see I was overwhelmed because I'm recovering from a concussion, and how am I going to do all of this? How do I do all of this? And I'm so grateful to be here, but I can't be at 100% capacity. How do I do this? And then Auntie Laura comes with smudge, and we had some prayers, and then she did a smudge and prayer for me and Uncle Casey. And even just moments like that are just such a beautiful gift, which I also think are gifts and ancestor medicine on the journey. I don't think I'd be here with Good Medicine Way, with Uncle Casey, with the church family, at Nate's, if it wasn't for God and the ancestors that have connected me to everyone. I see my mom too, having a moment. I love you, Mom. That it's been a journey for her too. This is good medicine for my mom as well on the journey. I see another hand. Elisa?
Hi. Hi, Christina. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I so enjoyed you tonight, and you just touched my heart. And when you were talking about your ancestors, and I started thinking about the ones that we see and know, and the ones we haven't yet, but yet they're there. They're in that cloud of witnesses. And when my daughter was born, my father passed away. So she really didn't get to know him. She was only a year old. the year had passed, and it was actually the actual day to the day of his death, a year later. I was crying in the room upstairs, praying to the Lord, and my baby came to me and said, "Mama, don't cry. Grandpa sees you." He said not to cry. And I thought, isn't that amazing that even on the other side, our ancestors do see us? And everything that you're doing right there, I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see what's going to come out of your next 3 months, because I know it's all good things, all good medicine.
And thank you for sharing that, Elisa. How beautiful. I resonate so much. My grandfather passed, a few months before I was born. And that's the same grandpa that, we went on this journey to Oklahoma and have felt, the ancestors with us. I didn't also share, I've had some wild moments when we were on the way to Nate's. We saw my grandpa's name on this van. I was going to the Nate Symposium, and then there's this random van that says Paul Davis. And me and my mom were just like, okay, yeah, this is not unusual anymore. I see Martha.
I don't know if I could mute myself. Well, Christina, first, I am so proud. I got to live with her for a bit and part of this journey. And I was just blessed by you sharing, and also ministered to as I'm on my own journey as well. And just recently, like that prayer, God has been inviting me into something specific. So as you invited us to pray and listen to, what we're hearing, the vision I got was just, of my own people, Latina women, just being around, laughing, enjoying, so you got this. Because it's like, even as a Latina woman who shares two different, Mexican and Salvadoran, two different cultures that don't see eye to eye, right? So that's all part of a whole journey. Just feeling that like embrace and celebration of like, okay, God, I can do this, like just feeling that peace, but also that push. And so I just was blessed, and I'm glad I got to hear your stories and more of your journey. I love you, and I'm proud of all the good work you're doing. Yes. But that's all I will say. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Martha's one of my best friends, so thank you, my friend. Sarah, hello, sister.
Hi, Christina. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Kayna, thank you for sharing your story tonight. You shared so powerfully and beautifully, and it touched all of us. I saw lots of people tearing up and wiping tears away. But what struck me about your conversation is how there was a striving at the beginning in you, this intensity to reconnect and to find these missing links and all this stuff. But all of the ways that striving was matched from the other side to meet you, like the fireflies, the random person at the cemetery inviting you to a powwow, the van with, Paul Dave, all that stuff, like the ways that you couldn't have gotten to on your own, but they met you there. And it really brings more meaning to that word, being surrounded. Like you are surrounded, we are surrounded by these witnesses, and they bear witness to themselves, and all of them point to the glory of God. So I just want to say that's kind of what my takeaway was, is how amazing it was to see your ancestors meeting you and wanting to be known, and how they're making themselves known. It's very encouraging to those of us who are in a similar journey. So thank you for sharing, and thanks to your ancestors who made you who you are, such a wonderful person that so many of us love. So
So much love to you. Thank you.
More, and then Andrew.
I'm not sure who's first, but I see Namara and Andrew.
Andrew, go ahead first.
Okay, so I was gonna let Namar go ahead, but yeah, just real briefly, can everyone hear me? I've got my AirPods on. Is that volume okay? Okay. Yeah, it was just really encouraging. Everyone's story is different, but there was a lot of similarities with me, and yeah, it just really meant a lot because I'm trying to get out of this binary of with Native identity that if you don't have everything fully documented, that you're somehow what a lot of people call a pretendian. And I've realized that there are so many people in that middle where there's evidence and documentation, but not always what we want. And I'm that same person that thinks that, oh, if I could just have this or just have that, then I can finally rest. And what it's forced me to do is I've actually been speaking to my ancestors more. And last night I hit a little bit of a wall, and there was some evidence I thought it was there, and it turned out to not be. And I was like, well, I know what I am. I know I'm Cherokee. I know I'm Native. I know I'm mixed. I know this. I have so much in favor of that. And I believe my father and my grandmother would never lie to me. And so what I'm learning is that when I don't have the answers and I can't control with really Western documentation is what we're looking at. And it's really settler colonial documentation, needing to rely on these documents that are not historical to Native people. You know, we are oral people. And so in my frustration last night, I just prayed out to my ancestors. And so your talk is really confirming this to me, because when I don't have what sort of like that, if you want to call it like my settler colonial side, because I'm mixed too, where I just want these concrete Western Greco-Roman pieces of evidence that I can just tell everyone, you know, go away now because I can prove to you. When I don't have that, it seems like my ancestors bring out that Native side into me, and then I call to them. And so it reminded me of that. And as I'm actually saying that, I'm realizing, you know, that's a very Indigenous thing to do. And so your story, I mean, really appreciate it. And I'm finding there's so many people with my similar story, and it's messy and it's mixed, and we don't always have what we want, but then we get to essentially have our ancestors carry us through that. You know, and ultimately that black and white reality is a colonized reality. And I don't have to answer to that anymore. But yeah, so I'm long-winded. I'm also, it's sort of, that's sort of like my tradition, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Andrew, I 100%, yes. I've written papers on deconstructing indigeneity, and folks that are like, I hate words like thin blood. I hate words like purist, or even being from both sides of the socially constructed border. Term words like illegal when there's Indigenous ancestors affected by colonization across the now border that was imposed by Western imperialism. Like, we're all Indigenous siblings, you know? There's so much at every level. And to be 100% honest, there are days when I can just be like, yes, the ancestors are with me. I know where I'm at in the journey, and I feel like, you know, I feel the cloud with me. I'm ready. And there are days, which folks in Nades can tell you, like Meryl, where I just fall apart, and I'm like, I'm not enough of anything, and do I even deserve to be here? And do I deserve to be learning here? And if I don't have this paper, maybe I shouldn't sit in the circle. But God continues to show me the ways that even my own seeking of indigeneity and reclaiming God's decolonizing that for me as well. And I do want to find those missing pieces, but I'm also like trusting God, you have given me the information that I have, and I want to walk in a good way with that. And I want to trust you for more on the journey at the right time. Here we are, Lord, in the mess. And I find my mom was saying this today. She was like, God and ancestors have met us in the mystery in so many wild ways that maybe if we didn't feel that sense of all we have is you, Lord, you and the ancestors. We've been ushered into powerful moments in the midst of that question mark.
So housekeeping wise, so we've got a few people who want to make comments. So the order will be Namar, then Sue Martell, and then Kimberly Medicine Horn Jackson. Those are the three that I'm aware of at this moment. So Namar, Sue, and then Kimberly. So go ahead, Namar.
Okay, thank you, Christina, very much for this presentation and for this teaching and for this revelation, if you will. I thank you very much for this. It was very moving and it was very insightful. And we're definitely going to be blessed by Creator through you. So thank you for that. Now, there's two things that I wanted to share with you that's been on my mind and heart in listening to what you shared with us. The first thing is your story, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but your story to me is a very unique Job story. And what I mean by that is, as we know from the story of Job, is he lost everything, but then through his faithfulness, he received everything back and then some. You see, double what he had last time. So I feel like you've been stripped of your identity. That's what you've lost. But now you're on that path of getting it back and then some, and then more. So I hope if you understand what I mean with the Job analogy with that, you're getting that and you're getting double with that. So I want to encourage you with that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that with your story is that I really hope that it serves as an inspiration for many of us who are on that similar journey, much like Andrew had just shared. And bear with me, I'm getting emotional as I'm saying this. But you see, you definitely made me think about my story. Some of you may know my story, but my ancestors, we were taken from our home in West Africa through the transatlantic slave trade. This is my dad's side of the family. We were brought to America as enslaved people, and we grew up in Mississippi and Indian Territory. And the native folks, they took us in, and we were raised on their land with them, and we intermingled with them. And so I have a great appreciation for my ancestors and that history. And the sad part about it is that through documentation, there isn't written documentation of my native roots, because that's largely because of the one drop rule. For those of you that don't know what that means, historically, during the 1800s and so forth, 1700s, if you had one drop of blood that was of African ancestry, you were considered nigger, you were considered Negro. And whatever ancestry that you had with that was all stripped away. It was taken out of documentation. You were now Black. And so that's what I lived through. When I had my late great granddad before he passed away, or great uncle before he passed away, he said, no, we grew up on their land, and we grew up with them, and we intermarried with them. So I hold on to that to claim my native ancestry, and then I listen to other Black Indians who share the same thing. They know their ancestry, but they also tell me that, hey, the one drop rule messed a lot of us up. A lot of us don't know that we have native within our ancestry because they stripped that documentation away and just said that we're niggers, Negro, colored, and so forth. So this right here gives me further motivation with my journey
And then also, and I'm gonna leave you with this, also the research that I do, for those that know me, I do Black Indians in ministry, historical Black Indians in ministry. And as you were talking about the ancestors speak to us, the voice that I kept hearing while you were saying that was, tell them about us. And it's like I felt like the Black Indian ancestors within my ancestry, within my family history and so forth, they were just whispering to me or saying a soft-spoken voice, tell them about us. So yeah, so thank you for this, and very motivational.
Thank you so much, Namar, and resonate so much with what you shared with the Job. I saw my mom tearing up when you said that. And yeah, it's been a lot of stuff taken and a lot given back. Yes, amen. And I do feel like there's more. God's wanting to give us is more. And yes, having studied the social construction of race in America, that's a whole topic of the one drop rule, the construction of Blackness, and the construction of indigeneity. And how it's all about land, but yes, I could talk forever about that, but for the sake of time, yes, I feel you. Thank you so much for sharing.
And yeah, Sue's next. Sue, Kimberly, and then Gabe got in line. Gabe will be after Kimberly. So Sue, you're up.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, good. I probably have less blood than any of you, but it's hundreds of years ago. I didn't even know until I was an adult. And then when miraculously Ray and I were called in to serve Native people, and it was confirmed in 2007, I spent a great deal of time in prayer about it, struggling back and forth, colonizer, a little bit of blood and all. I hear you, Christina, and thank you. I appreciate your words. What I wanted to tell you was that I too sometimes see visions and have dreams when I'm in my prayer time. And early on then, way back then, I was having a prayer time somewhere between 2007 and 2009. And I saw myself seated in the eastern woodlands, which is where my ancestors were from, sitting there in prayer. And beside me, there was a veil that you could see through. And there was a woman on the other side I knew to be my ancestor. And she was praying with me. And we were praying for the healing of trauma for Native people. I believe, and I was given the insight at the time, that not only were we praying together, I was observing her praying all of those generations ago, a prayer that someday someone would come along in her bloodline who had helped to make a difference and turn things around for Native people in service to them. So I'm here to tell you that I believe, when I was listening to Christina, that not only am I the answer, if I continue to follow the Lord, my husband and I can be the answer to that prayer, to her prayer specifically. I wouldn't be a bit surprised that the rest of you are the answer to your ancestors' prayers as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Gabriel had texted that same thing
Amen.
earlier in the chat.
Yes, Gabriel.
Yeah, that we're the answer to that.
I feel that so much, that we are gonna all be part of birthing the new creation, the new earth that Creator talks about. And it's coming. And here we are, and our ancestors are praying for us. I'm praying for that.
Kimberly?
All right, Kimberly.
Kimberly.
Wonderful talk, Christina. So good to hear you and to hear part of your story. I love that. And there were so many times I was just like moved or cheering or just right there with you as you were explaining how things were for you. And I think when you led us through that prayer, I saw an image of my first father, my dad, and I only have one picture of him. And it sort of surprised me because I'm like, oh, there's so much more that I need to know about him. You know, I know some aunties who have told me stories, and they're all getting older. So there's always that sense that time is going to run out and I'm going to be too late. So I don't know if I'm ever going to catch up and do everything I'm supposed to do. But to balance that, what I have come to know is there's no timeline. There is no beginning and there is no end. This is a process of becoming. And it's going to take as long as it takes. God's going to send those people. I remember when I was a kid on a family vacation, we went to Pine Ridge Reservation because my brother is full-blood Oglala Sioux. And we went into this little, like a trading post. And it was, all I really remember about it is there was this very large Native man sitting behind the counter. And we were checking out, you know, what kind of candy we could buy. And the light was coming through the windows, but I could see like all the dust floating around and things like that. And all I remember the man saying to my brother and I was, remember the language of your people. And so it's just like, there's, you know, there's that aspect of it too. You know, am I ever going to be a fluent speaker? You know, am I going to look this certain way and be this certain thing? And I don't know the answer to those questions. And I'm okay with that because there's a limited amount of time, and what needs to be done will be done. And I just really had this sense that my dad was happy because one of my aunties told me, what took you so long to come back? Your dad waited for you until he couldn't wait anymore. You know, and I remember thinking, dang, I should have just started this a lot sooner than I did, you know, but it can't be that way. It's got to unfold organically or holistically with no rushing and no expectation of what the final outcome is going to be. And that's what makes it a place of deep despair sometime, but also a place of unspeakable joy. So I just want to encourage everyone here who is on that journey, like to take great gulps of air, breathe it all in, let it settle into your bones and create lines on your face and a spring in your step or tracks of tears, whatever it is, it's all going to happen as it's meant to be. Thank you for sharing, Christina.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Amen. It's a good word.
All right, Gabriel.
Gabriel, you're up.
Is he frozen?
You might have poked the wrong button. Where'd he go? There he is.
There he's back.
Unmute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Now, yeah.
I'm sorry, my internet was.
You got muted again somehow.
Going in and out.
I pressed the mute button on my end. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't share as in depth earlier, but I did after having seen how in depth the conversation went. You know, when we were talking about asking God, asking Creator, you know, what our ancestors are saying and just praying, the thought popped in my mind, you know who you are more so than know what people think about you. And I think it spoke to me personally with everything that had been shared, because what I can definitely say is that when you have a triracial identity, it's like living in atmospheres where the oxygen is thinner. If you're used to running in those spaces for long term, you adapt to it, but people who haven't lived it don't actually know what it's like to feel it in your bones, to be used to having to wrestle and actually accept several different roots in your system. And I think it's interesting because when you know where you are and you know who you are and what people you come from, it makes a world of difference with not being discouraged. I just want to, say again, thank you for the encouragement that was shared. What I wanted to say earlier is that it's a little bit recent for me. I've been doing this for a while now, but it got even more recent when I was in Nova Scotia. There's a book I have right in front of me that I went to get real quick. And it's a really beautiful book. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's called Mom Sue, Matriarch of the Preston Area Black Communities. Mom Sue was actually Mi'kmaq as well as Afro-Nova Scotian. I say that because the book hit me in light of some of the research I did before coming to the NATES conference. I had just come from, on my dad's side, some of the people I hailed from, Gullah Geechee people, Black Seminoles in Beaufort. Of course, some were Cherokee. They actually went out west and landed in Mississippi before going up the Mississippi River to Missouri. But for those who stayed in the South Carolina area, many of them ended up joining the British loyalists. They joined the British, became Black loyalists, and they went all the way up to Canada to find freedom. But they still had to deal with enslavement in Canada, and they had to deal with people forcing them back into a new form of slavery. And while the Underground Railroad was happening, they couldn't tell their relatives back home in South Carolina, be careful, it's not all freedom up here. It's not all freedom up here. But at the same time that was happening, I had found out going to Nova Scotia that African Americans, Afro Natives, Black Seminoles and so forth, Gullah people, they all came to Nova Scotia and they end up finding refuge in the arms of the Mi'kmaq. And so it was wild for me going to the NATES conference, not knowing how in depth. I knew about my Gullah ancestry going up and the Black Seminoles that went up to Nova Scotia, and I had hoped to meet people. But I had no way of contacting people. All I knew was that I did my 23andMe, as well as several other things. I had my genealogical research I'd done for years. I had the oral stories of my grandparents and my great-grandparents before me. So I had a good sense of where we come from. But that paper trail was such a big deal because I had grown up being told by people on multiple sides, you have to be either 100% something or nothing at all. You couldn't just say, I'm this and I'm that and I'm that. So when I got to Nova Scotia, and Creator literally brought to me people who live there who are actually part Mi'kmaq themselves and Gullah and Afro-Nova Scotian, just blew my mind. And it reminded me of the saying that the blood calls out. Your ancestors really will find you. It makes me think about Daniel in the Bible. When Christina was sharing, it made me think about how Daniel, he had kind of had the same situation. They not only enslaved his people in Babylon, but they changed their names and they changed their dialect or attempted to change their dialect. And they gave them a lot of prestige, trying to get them to forget that they were in a palace that was a prison. But when Daniel prayed, he always said, but I remember I praise the God of my ancestors. And it made me think for all of us on the line, how important it is for us to know that when you know who you are, some of those consequences that came from not knowing fully are inconsequential. I know there are people who have told me, well, you really aren't Native enough because you didn't grow up on the reservation. They didn't realize that there were people who were fully Indigenous who lived in different ways. They lived from town to town. They lived as canoe people who traveled up the river. Across the Caribbean, they did island hopping. They didn't know about the natives who traveled from like the Kalinago, helping out enslaved Afro-Caribbeans in Barbados and St. Vincent. They didn't know about what happened with island hopping and how the Underground Railroad connected people all across Native communities and African-American descent. They didn't know about those things, but because I didn't know, when they said those things to me, even though I knew what my grandparents told me, it hurt me because I thought I needed their affirmation. And going to Nova Scotia just blew my mind that I didn't need it at all. It's just that I had to know there was room for people like me to exist. There was a whole class of people like me and others on this line who are triracial people. We're new in the environment that we're in, but we're also part of a long legacy of people who have very similar experiences. And part of us healing is embracing what our ancestors not only went through, what they celebrated. They celebrated being triracial. They had people that were against it in those times as well, but you have people that said, no, you are 100% this tribe and 100% that tribe. You have three roots, and this is part of Creator's design. So I just really thank God for Christina sharing every single thing, and others as well sharing their stories to let us know that we're not by ourselves, and we're not starting from ground zero. We are the answers to our ancestors' prayers.
Thank you so much, Gabriel.
Thank you.
Amen. Yeah, we're not starting from ground zero, and we are in good community with folks on the journey. So I woke up in the middle of the night the other day and wrote this poem, and I didn't think I was going to share this, but is it cool if I share this? It's not finished. So, context, I wrote a real angsty poem like 5 years ago, and it's in a book called Mixed Blessing, and it was good, and I needed to write a real angsty poem at the time. But this is after some ancestor medicine. This is a new poem that I wrote. But I carry the mystery of the cosmos, two-eyed, three-eyed, four-eyed seeing. My body cries out with Panchamama, your borders can't divide me. We are whole, whole, holy. My relations are vast and my familia is expansive. A multicultural diadem in the hands of God. Our ancestry defies dualism. We were made to reveal the multicultural Gloria de Dios, healing and good medicine for ancestors and the next 7 generations. And I believe our eyes will see the goodness of Creator in the land of the living.
Well, this was a great night, everyone. Appreciate everyone that came on tonight. Nobody can hear me.
You're on.
Very good. Yeah, I just glanced down at my screen and my little.
Yeah, but you got to turn yours off.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I thought no one could hear me because I see my mute button, but I forgot about it. I got a microphone right in front of me here. But I just wanted to share with you that, we are doing our best to bring you this kind of talent, to share with you experiences that many of us are on. Christina is living that out and sharing her life with us. We are blessed by that, and it's not over yet. I know our relationship will continue and grow.
Yes, you can't get rid of me.
You can't get rid of me. Staying with my daughter, Shondine, and they're having a great time.
It's been awesome.
And spending time with my wife, it's a great time there too. So this is really good for everyone. And I hope that you were blessed tonight. And like they were saying, if you're able to support what we're doing, we do have a PayPal account that we do take an offering in. But I want to make note that next week, we're going to have another great person on our speaker. We're going to have Dr. Sojourn Ra that is going to be with us next week. And we're looking forward to him. The following week, or the week after, we're going to have Mark Charles. He's going to be here in person. So we're going to rearrange our tech that's going on here. You guys can't see it from there, but we got 4 laptops going. I got 2 screens, the big screen that you're on, and we got like this board over here with our order of worship that keeps us all in mind what we're doing. And we're really trying to break this way of doing church. And you guys have just made it such a blessing tonight to have some 36 people come on to share with us. We could go on and on. I think we're so blessed tonight that we just want to just carry on. But I just really want to respect your time too. And be in prayer for us. Be in prayer for Christina and the work that we're doing. And our friend Ken here, who's got a meeting coming up. My family and I were going to be going through a ceremony with my son this coming week, and just pray for all of that. But I want to give it over to the song. We're going to have a song right now as we go, and then Preston is going to send us off with some words. Thank you all so much.
All right, yeah, so we're just going to do our normal closing round dance, the Ghana Local song. So hopefully it's familiar to all of you, so you can join in. One last thought, one thing I was reminded of as we were all talking was talked a lot about the ancestors and the ancestors being with us and how we're the fulfillment of our ancestors' prayers. But another thing that an activist friend of mine said once was there's so many stories, so many movies that involve time travel, and people go back into the past and do some little thing and it has some profound change on the present. And that just seems like, oh yeah, of course that could happen. But we don't think about how the small decisions that we make right now have profound effects 7 generations down the road. So what you do matters. With that, we will go into the summit.
Great worship and being able to remind us of how we are praising the Lord and how we always praise the Lord together, even if it's virtual. Thank you, Christina, for that great talk and being able to have us learn and be a part of your story. Are you guys having trouble hearing me? Because I see Leia kind of having trouble like leaning in, or does Leia need to turn off the hearing aid? I think Brian's laughter is giving me the okay. Okay. Hello. Let's all come into prayer and time of posture. Heavenly Father, Creator, you're on so many different journeys, and with each of them, every one of us, which is phenomenal and great, and you each know our different stories. It's just you like to hear what we tell you, even if you already know. You want to hear from our story, but not only that, you want us to share our stories and how we are being more connected, not only to you, but how we are connected to the land, how we are connected to everybody around us, and how we are intermingled to be one, and how we allowing ourselves to have that oneness turn into love and becoming love. We demonstrate Christ's love through that community, through those moments of who we are, of building friendships and relationships and family, even if we never knew the people. And allow us to be able to have that sanctification, that mending of our families right now. Have us be able to give each other strength and be able to encourage each other verbally, even because sometimes we cannot hear our ancestors, or we're so drowned from the things of this earth, the things of this world that we hear our ancestors. So when we are there, that person, let us continually encourage them in person, encourage them that they are doing the job that they are working towards to, continuing mending and refinding ourselves up here. Let these words allow us and guide us through the week as you are going to guide us through the week. Thank you for allowing us to be together and be this bountiful and being able to stretch in many different ways and reach different people. Thank you for allowing these words to continually be someone's next step, our next move, our next motivation. In your good heavenly name we pray. Amen. Thank you for being here. Yes, Casey?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight. I'll let you go. Remember our upcoming speakers that we have, and we'll see some of you at Family Camp in Oregon, and we'll see some of you in Family Camp in Virginia, and some of you in Family Camp in Canada. So, and I hope to see you back here again, too. And we have Dr. Sojung Rao with us. Everyone have a good evening now. Bye-bye.
Night.
And if you want to stay on to visit for a little bit afterwards, you're welcome to. And if you were here, you could help us eat some pizza and burritos. We can't eat it all. We're trying. The recording is stopped.
Where the burritos from?
It's just visiting time now.
You gotta come over and eat it yourself.